the royal command, the great hall of the alien palace was filled with golden light. Tall crystal walls reflected the faces of hundreds of nobles, soldiers, and servants. The air was heavy with tension, for today was the day the princess would choose her mate, a choice that would decide not only her future, but also the future of the royal bloodline. The princess sat on a high throne beside her father, the king. Her long silver hair glowed under the light, and her violet eyes stared into the crowd with hidden fire. She looked calm, but inside her heart raced. She knew what this day meant. She was expected to choose one of the alien nobles, strong warriors from proud houses, men who bowed before the king but carried arrogance in their eyes. The king rose to his feet. His voice boomed across the hall, shaking the walls. Today my daughter will choose a mate. She will bind her life and her power to the one she selects. The choice must be worthy. The choice must be noble. And once chosen, it will not be undone. The nobles cheered loudly. Some lifted their weapons. Some raised their hands in salute. Every one of them believed the princess would point to one of them. But the princess did not look at them. Her eyes wandered past the proud nobles, past the decorated warriors, past the sneering lords. She looked down to the side of the hall, where the servants stood in silence. Among them stood a single human. He was young, his clothes simple and plain. His brown hair was messy, and his eyes were gentle but tired. He had been serving in the palace for months, carrying water, cleaning halls, and fixing small things that no one else cared about. To the aliens, he was nothing, an outsider, a weak creature, a tool. But to the princess, he was different. She remembered the time he had bowed his head and picked up her dropped scroll when others ignored it. She remembered how he had offered her a quiet smile when she was being scolded by the king. She remembered how his eyes did not see her as a princess, but as a person. The king spoke again, impatient. "Daughter, stand and choose. Show the court who is worthy of your hand." The princess rose. Every eye followed her. The hall grew silent. The sound of her heels echoed against the crystal floor as she stepped forward. She raised her arm. Her finger slowly stretched out into the crowd. The nobles leaned forward, each one waiting to hear his name. But her hand moved past them. Her finger pointed down, toward the servant corner, straight at the human. The hall gasped. A wave of shock rolled through the nobles. Then laughter broke out, loud and cruel. "A human?" one lord shouted. "Impossible!" another cried. "He cannot even lift a blade," a warrior mocked. The human himself froze. His eyes widened. He glanced around as if searching for someone else she could mean, but her finger was steady, her eyes fixed only on him. The king's face turned dark. His voice thundered. "Do you mock this court, child? Do you insult your own blood?" The princess stood tall. Her voice was steady, though her heart pounded. "No, father, I do not mock. This is my choice. I choose him." The laughter of the nobles grew louder. Some shouted insults at the human. Some demanded the princess change her decision. The human felt his legs shaking. He wanted to step back, to hide, to disappear. But the princess's gaze held him still. The king slammed his staff on the ground. The hall fell silent. His golden eyes burned with fury. "You dare point at a servant? A weak outsider with no name, no title, no bloodline? You shame this throne." But the princess did not lower her hand. She repeated firmly, "I choose him." The human finally found his voice. He raised his hands nervously, speaking softly. "Princess, I am not worthy. I am no warrior. I am just a worker." His words made the nobles laugh even harder, but the princess shook her head. Her silver hair shimmered as she spoke. "You are worthy to me." The human's heart pounded. He had no idea why she would say such words, why she would risk angering her father, why she would put her kingdom into chaos for him. The king's anger filled the hall. He looked ready to order the human's execution right there, but tradition was strong. The royal command could not be undone so easily. Once the princess declared her choice, it was law. The king's voice came low and cold. "Then let it be so. But if this human is to stand by you, he will prove himself. He will face the trial of worthiness, and if he fails, he will die." The court erupted again, cheering and mocking. The nobles smiled cruelly. They believed the human had no chance. They saw him as already dead. The human stood frozen, his heart heavy, his fate sealed. The princess looked at him once more, her eyes burning with something no one else could see. And in that moment, the human realized one truth. Whether he wanted it or not, his life had just changed forever. The human's protest. The great hall was still buzzing with whispers and laughter. Nobles exchanged mocking glances, soldiers chuckled under their breath, and the servants looked down, too afraid to show their shock. Only two people in the entire palace were silent: the princess, who stood firm with her choice, and the human, who wished the ground would open beneath him. The king's voice echoed again, harsh and full of rage. "You dare point at a servant? A human, no less? Do you spit upon your own throne?" The princess lifted her chin, her violet eyes locked with his. "I do not spit upon the throne, father. I honor it with honesty. My choice is final." Her words sent another wave of gasps across the court. No princess had ever defied the king so openly, yet the one most shaken was the human himself. His knees trembled, his heart pounded in his chest. He could not remain silent. He stepped forward, his voice shaking but loud enough to carry. "Your Majesty, forgive me. I cannot accept this. I am not fit to stand beside her. I am no prince, no warrior, no noble. I am just a worker who cleans your halls." The crowd burst into laughter, cruel and sharp. "Listen to him," one lord sneered. "Even he knows he is nothing," shouted another. The king's lips curled into a cruel smile. "You see, child, even the human knows his place." But the princess did not waver. Her gaze followed the human, her eyes burning with strange fire. "Then let him speak for himself," she said calmly. The human turned to her, his voice breaking. "Why me? Princess, you have dozens, hundreds of stronger choices. Why would you ruin yourself by choosing me?" For a moment, the hall grew quiet. Everyone leaned forward to hear her answer. The princess's lips parted, and she spoke with calm certainty. "Because I see what others do not." Her words struck him like a blade. He could not understand. What did she see? He was weak, tired, just surviving each day in silence. To the aliens, he was less than dirt, yet she stood there, defying her father and the entire court for him. The king's fury returned. His voice shook the very crystal walls. "This foolishness ends now, daughter. You will not throw away our bloodline for pity. This choice is madness." The princess's voice cut through his thunder like steel. "Madness or not, the law is clear. The daughter of the throne may choose, and I have chosen." The hall trembled with tension. The nobles shouted, some in anger, some in mocking joy. Already they dreamed of watching the human's execution when he failed the trial. The human wanted to run, to escape this nightmare. He clenched his fists, his chest tight. He bowed his head, trying to find words. His voice came low, filled with desperation. "Princess, please, release me from this. I beg you, I cannot stand against warriors. I cannot survive what your father has planned. If you keep me, I will die." Her answer was soft, but sharp as a blade. "Then you will die as my choice, not as a nameless servant." Her words stunned the court. They laughed again, but beneath their laughter was unease. The princess had never spoken with such fire. She looked not like a fragile royal, but like a woman who had already made up her mind. The king slammed his staff on the ground once more. "Enough! The human has spoken his weakness. The princess has spoken her madness. The only truth left is the trial of worthiness. If he survives, he may remain. If he fails, he dies." The court erupted in cheers. The nobles shouted, "Yes, let the trial begin. Watch the human crumble. His blood will stain the sands." The human's chest grew heavier with each word. He turned his eyes toward the princess, hoping, just hoping, she might take it back. But she only stepped closer to him, her voice steady but quiet, meant only for him. "You are afraid, but that is why I chose you." His breath caught. He wanted to ask what she meant, but the guards were already moving. The king's command had been given. The human was grabbed by armored hands and dragged from the hall. As the doors closed behind him, the noble's laughter still rang in his ears. He stumbled as the guards pushed him forward. His heart was a storm of fear and anger. Why me? Why her? Why now? He wanted nothing but a simple life, yet fate had dragged him into the center of a world he could never escape, a world where a single wrong step meant death. And yet, deep inside, beneath the fear, a spark burned. A memory of her eyes, calm, strong, unshaken, rose inside him. It gave him no comfort, only confusion. But it was enough to keep his legs moving as he was dragged toward the unknown. Behind him, in the great hall, the princess stood alone before her furious father. The nobles still mocked, still jeered, but she did not lower her head. Her choice had been made. Her path could not be undone, and though no one else understood, The princess whispered a vow to herself. I will not let him fall, not him. The trial of worthiness. The human was dragged through cold metal corridors. His wrists were chained, his steps stumbled as armored guards pushed him forward. He did not know where they were taking him, but the word trial echoed in his mind like a death bell. Finally, the doors opened to reveal a massive arena, a circle of stones surrounded by tall walls. Above, rows upon rows of aliens filled the seats, nobles, warriors, and even commoners. All had gathered to see the spectacle. The human felt like prey thrown into a cage, and the crowd's hungry eyes were the eyes of predators. At the far end, the king sat on a raised throne, his golden armor shining under the sunlight. Beside him, the princess sat silently, her face unreadable, but her eyes never left the human. A voice boomed across the arena. By royal command, the trial of worthiness begins. The human shall prove his right to live, his right to stand beside our princess. The crowd cheered. They wanted blood. They wanted a show. To them, the human's failure was already certain. The chains were removed. His wrists were sore. He rubbed them, looking around nervously. His heart raced, his mouth dry. Then the first test began. From the gates across the arena, a beast emerged. It was massive, four-legged, covered in thick scales that shimmered dark green. Its jaws were wide, filled with sharp teeth. Its roar shook the ground beneath his feet. The human froze. He had no weapon, no armor, nothing but his thin clothes and bare hands. The nobles laughed cruelly. He will be eaten in a breath. End him quickly. The beast charged. Its steps thundered like drums. The human's mind screamed for him to run, but where? There was nowhere to escape, no way to fight. Then, his eyes caught something. Broken pieces of stone on the ground, left from past trials. He dashed, snatched up a sharp shard, and rolled aside just as the beast slammed into the ground where he had been standing. Dust rose, the ground cracked, the crowd gasped. They had expected him to freeze, but he moved. He survived the first strike. The human's hands shook as he held the shard. His breath came fast, his legs ached, yet he stood. The beast roared again, turning its massive head toward him. It charged a second time. This time, the human ran, not away, but toward the beast. At the last moment he dove aside, the shard of stone slashing across its softer underbelly. The beast howled, blood dripping. The crowd roared with surprise. The noble's laughter dimmed. The princess's eyes lit with fire. Her lips pressed tightly, but her hands clenched the arms of her throne. The beast staggered but did not fall. It turned again, rage burning in its golden eyes. The human's chest tightened, his strength fading. He knew he could not fight forever. But then an idea sparked. He had seen workers in the palace use torches near the arena gates. He looked around. There, near the wall, lay a discarded spear broken in half, its sharp end jagged. He sprinted, every muscle screaming. The beast chased, its roar deafening. At the last moment he grabbed the broken spear, spun, and thrust it upward. The beast's own weight drove the spear into its chest. The creature let out a final roar before collapsing, shaking the ground. Silence filled the arena. The human stood over the fallen beast, chest heaving, arms trembling, his face pale with exhaustion but his eyes alive. Then the crowd erupted, not with cheers, but with shouts of disbelief. How can this be? He cheated death. This is impossible. The king's face was stone. His lips curled slightly, but his eyes held no joy, only calculation. The announcer's voice rang out. The first trial, complete. The human stands. But before he could breathe, before he could feel relief, the gates opened again. This time, 3 armored warriors stepped into the arena, tall, powerful aliens with glowing blades in their hands. Their eyes were full of hatred. The human's chest sank. He could barely stand, and now he faced trained killers. The crowd cheered louder than before, smelling blood at last. The warriors circled him. One struck. The human ducked clumsily, barely dodging. Another kicked him, sending him crashing to the ground. Pain shot through his ribs. He groaned, rolling onto his side. The crowd laughed again, certain his luck had ended. But as the warriors closed in, the human grabbed a handful of sand and flung it into the nearest one's eyes. The alien roared, stumbling. The human snatched his blade, clumsy in his grip but desperate. He swung wildly, sparks flying as metal clashed. He could not match their strength, but he used his speed, his fear, and his desperate will to survive. Each strike was sloppy, but each dodge kept him alive. The princess leaned forward in her seat. Her heart pounded. She whispered softly, though no one heard, "Don't give up, please." The fight dragged on. The human bled from cuts, his arms heavy, his lungs burning. Yet he refused to fall. He refused to give them the death they wanted. Finally, he caught one warrior off guard, slamming the jagged spear into his chest. The alien fell with a scream. The crowd gasped. The human staggered, blood dripping down his face. His eyes locked with the princess, and for a brief second, he saw pride in her gaze, pride that gave him strength. The remaining two warriors hesitated, one glancing at the king, waiting for his command. The king's face was unreadable, his golden eyes cold as stone. Then he lifted a hand. The announcer shouted, "The second trial ends." The warriors stepped back, lowering their blades. The human fell to his knees, gasping for air. His body screamed for rest, but his heart still beat. He was alive. The arena was silent. Shock held the crowd in place. A servant, a human, had survived not one but two trials. And the princess, for the first time in years, allowed a small smile to touch her lips. The growing bond. The arena still smelled of dust, blood, and sweat. The human had survived the trial of worthiness, something no one believed possible. The crowd left in silence, their laughter replaced with whispers of unease. Some called it luck, others called it trickery. But the truth was clear. He had not fallen. The king's face was dark, his voice sharp as steel when he ordered, "Take him away. Let him heal if he can. He will not escape the next test." Guards lifted the broken human from the sand, his body bruised, his arms torn with cuts, his breath shallow, yet his eyes, though tired, still burned with something new. Defiance. He was taken to a chamber deep in the palace. A simple stone room lit by torches, a bed of soft cloths waited for him, but his mind would not rest. Later that night, the door opened. A figure stepped in quietly, silver hair catching the light. The princess. The human tried to rise, wincing in pain. "Princess, why are you here?" She raised a hand, stopping him. "Do not rise. You have suffered enough." Her voice was calm, but her eyes trembled as she looked at his wounds. She sat beside him, holding out a small vial of glowing liquid. "Drink this. It will ease your pain." He hesitated. His hands shook as he took it. "You should not. Come here. The king will be furious." Her lips curved into a small smile. "My father is always furious, but I do not care. I had to see you." The human blinked. Her words confused him. "Why me? I still don't understand. You risk everything for me, and I am nothing." The princess leaned closer. Her eyes softened. "You are not nothing. Do you know what I saw when I first looked at you? I saw someone who did not bow to greed, someone who did not hunger for my crown. You looked at me not as a princess, but as a person." The human's chest tightened. He remembered that day. He had simply smiled at her when others mocked. To him, it had been nothing. To her, it had been everything. Her voice dropped to a whisper. "Every noble suitor wanted me for power, for control. But your eyes carried no desire for chains. That is why I chose you." Silence filled the chamber. The human turned away, his voice low. "But now I must fight. I must kill. I must become something I am not. Do you not see? I cannot win against your father's trials." The princess's hand gently touched his shoulder. Her touch was warm. "Then I will stand with you. You will not be alone." Her words struck him deeper than any blade. For the first time since his capture, he felt a strange calm. Days passed. The human's wounds began to heal slowly. The princess visited him in secret, bringing food, water, and medicine. She spoke of her childhood, of her loneliness in the Golden Palace. Her words painted a world of cold corridors and empty halls, where every smile was false and every hand reached only for her crown. In return, he told her of Earth, his world, his family, the simple life he once knew. She listened with wide eyes, as if each word was treasure. She laughed at his strange stories. She gasped at his tales of oceans and forests. The bond between them grew, like roots beneath the soil, hidden but strong. But not everyone was blind, the palace whispered. Servants spoke of the princess spending too much time near the human. Nobles muttered that her heart was falling, and the jealous suitors began to scheme. One night, as the human rested, the princess whispered urgently, "You must be careful. They will not wait for the next trial. Some may try to kill you before then." The human looked at her with weary eyes. Why not let them? Would that not end this madness? Her eyes flashed, sharp as fire. "No, I will not. Let them take you from me. Not after I chose you. Not after you fought for your life when no one believed you could." Her words silenced him. He had no answer, only the pounding of his heart. Suddenly, a sound echoed outside the chamber. Footsteps, too many to be guards. The princess stood quickly, pulling a dagger from her sleeve. Her face turned fierce. The door slammed open. 3 masked figures entered, blades gleaming in the torchlight. The assassins moved fast, their target clear, the human. The princess stepped forward without hesitation, her dagger flashing as she struck the first one. The human, weak but alive, grabbed a wooden stool and smashed it against the second, splinters flying. The third lunged, blade aimed for his chest, but the princess blocked it, steel clashing, her strength surprising him. Her violet eyes blazed. She kicked the assassin back, sending him crashing into the wall. When it was over, the assassins lay defeated. The human stood shaking, breath ragged, his eyes wide. You saved me. The princess lowered her dagger, her chest rising and falling. She looked at him with a fierce expression. I told you, you are not alone. The guards arrived late, dragging the bodies away, but the message was clear. The suitors were moving. The human was a target not only in the arena, but in every shadow of the palace. That night, as the flames flickered low, the princess sat close to him, her voice soft but unyielding. They will come again, but I will not let them take you. I will fight for you as you fought for yourself. And for the first time, the human believed her. A fragile hope bloomed in his chest, fragile yet real. The bond had been forged, in blood, in danger, and in trust, the betrayal in the shadows. The palace looked peaceful under the glow of twin moons, but behind its shining walls, whispers moved like snakes. The nobles were furious. The human had survived 2 trials, and worse, he was drawing closer to the princess, in hidden chambers, alien. Lords gathered in secret, their eyes burned with hatred, their voices hissed with venom. This cannot be allowed. If he survives another trial, he may truly win her hand. A human on the throne? Unthinkable. He must be destroyed before he poisons her further. So they planned. They hired assassins, bribed guards, and set traps. The human's death would be painted as an accident, a mistake, or a punishment for breaking rules. But their goal was clear. He must not live. In his chamber, the human sat quietly. His body still bore scars from the arena, but his mind was restless. He remembered the beast's roar, the warrior's blades, and the princess's fierce eyes when she fought to protect him. He could not deny it anymore. The bond between them was real, but the danger was real too. He knew death waited in every shadow. That night, as he drifted into uneasy sleep, a sound stirred him. A faint creak, too soft for normal ears. His eyes snapped open. The torchlight flickered. And then, silence. He sat up, heart pounding, and saw movement in the corner. Shadows detached themselves from the wall, blades glinting faintly. The human leapt to his feet, grabbing a broken stool leg as a weapon. His breath quickened. The assassins struck. 3 of them, masked and silent. They moved fast, blades flashing in deadly arcs. The human ducked the first strike, wood splintering as his makeshift weapon blocked the second. But the third cut across his arm, blood spilling hot and sharp. He staggered, but his mind screamed survive. He swung wildly, the stool leg cracking against an assassin's mask. The figure stumbled, hissing in pain. The door slammed open. The princess burst inside, dagger in hand. Her eyes blazed with fury. She threw herself into the fight without hesitation. Her blade caught the nearest assassin, forcing him back. "Stay behind me," she shouted, but the human didn't. Stay. He couldn't. His body moved with desperation. He lunged, knocking one assassin to the ground, struggling, panting, bleeding, yet refusing to give in. The clash was fast and brutal. Steel met steel, wood splintered, shadows danced across the walls. Finally, the last assassin fell, his blade clattering to the floor. Blood stained the chamber. The human collapsed against the wall, chest heaving. His arm burned from the cut. Sweat drenched his face. He looked at the princess, disbelief in his eyes. They will not stop, will they? The princess sheathed her dagger, her lips pressed tight. No, they will keep coming. They fear you because you survived. They hate you because I chose you. Her voice softened, trembling with emotion. And they hate me because I will not let them decide my heart. But even as her words settled, betrayal was still at work. The next morning the court gathered. Nobles filled the hall, their faces painted with false grief, their voices dripping with poison. The human is dangerous, one declared. He attracts violence to the palace, another hissed. He is a curse to our kingdom. The king listened, his face unreadable, but his golden eyes flickered with cold fire. One noble, bold and arrogant, stepped forward. I saw it with my own eyes, your majesty. The human conspired with the assassins. He staged the attack to win the princess's trust. The hall erupted in shocked murmurs. The human's chest tightened. He stepped forward, shaking his head. That's a lie. They tried to kill me. Why would I fight for my life if I was with them? But the nobles sneered. Words mean nothing, servant. You bring only chaos. Yes, remove him before more blood stains these halls. The king raised a hand, silence falling instantly. His voice came like thunder. The truth will be decided. If he is innocent, he will survive. If he is guilty, he will die. The human's heart sank. He knew what was coming. Another trial, another death trap dressed as justice. The princess stepped forward, her voice sharp with defiance. This is madness. He is no traitor. He has fought harder than any of your proud nobles. Her words shook the hall, but the nobles only laughed. Of course she defends him. She is bewitched by him. She chooses weakness over strength. The king's gaze turned to his daughter. Then prove us wrong, child. If your human truly deserves your hand, he will endure the final trial, the trial of binding. The hall gasped. The trial of binding was legendary, a test not only of strength but of spirit. Few had ever survived it. The human's stomach nodded, his legs felt weak. Yet when he looked at the princess, he saw her eyes full of fire, full of faith. He whispered to himself, if I give up now, everything she risked will be for nothing. The princess stepped closer to him, her voice low but fierce. They will twist every shadow against us, but listen to me. Do not let them break you. You are more than they will ever see. He met her gaze, and for the first time, he didn't feel like a servant or a pawn. He felt like someone chosen, someone worth fighting for. But in the corners of the hall, the nobles smiled. Their betrayal was complete. They had turned the king's fury into a weapon, and they believed the final trial would destroy the human at last. What they didn't see, not yet, was the fire growing between the human and the princess. A bond forged in blood and danger, stronger than their lies. The choice of hearts. The morning of the final trial came with a silence heavier than iron. The palace courtyards, usually filled with music and chatter, were cold and still. Word had spread across the kingdom. Today, the human would face the trial of binding. The arena was prepared once more. Its vast circle of stone seemed darker than before. The seats overflowed with nobles, warriors, and commoners. All had come to witness the end of the stranger who had stolen Thera. A princess's choice. At the center stood the human, his body still marked with bruises and scars, his arm bound from the assassin's blade. Yet he stood tall, even as fear twisted inside him. From the royal throne, the king's voice thundered. This is the trial of binding. If the human survives, he shall remain as chosen. If he fails, his body will be ash and his name forgotten. The nobles cheered. Their mocking voices echoed through the air. Some called him dead already. Others laughed that he would cry for mercy. But his eyes, though heavy with doubt, kept drifting toward the princess. She sat with her hands clenched, her jaw tight. Her eyes never left him. And in that steady gaze, he found the strength to breathe. The gates opened, and from the shadows emerged the final test. Not a beast, not a warrior, but a machine, forged from alien steel. Its body glowed with red lines of energy. Its arms were blades, its chest a burning core of fire. The human's throat tightened. He had never seen anything so terrifying. The crowd roared in excitement. The binding flame, someone shouted. No one has defeated it in a century. The machine's eyes glowed, its voice rumbled like thunder. Submit or perish. The human swallowed hard. He had no sword, no shield, only his will. The creature lunged, blades slicing through the air. He dove aside, the strike carving a deep scar into the stone. Sparks lit the arena. The human scrambled, rolling across the dirt. He grabbed a broken chain from the ground, his only weapon. The machine turned, moving faster than its size should allow. Another blade cut through his arm, blood spraying. He cried out but refused to fall. The princess rose from her seat, her voice breaking through the chaos. Stand! Don't give them the end they want! Her words hit him like fire. He grit his teeth, swinging the chain. It wrapped around the machine's arm. He pulled with all his strength. The machine staggered but did not fall. Its core glowed brighter, energy humming. With a roar, it struck again, throwing him across the arena. He slammed into the wall, pain exploding through his ribs. His vision blurred, his legs trembled. The nobles laughed cruelly. It's over. He cannot stand again. But slowly, painfully, the human pushed to his feet, his breath shallow, his body screaming in pain. His voice cracked. I am not done. The crowd went silent. His defiance shocked them. The machine charged, its blades raised. The human waited, eyes fixed on the glowing core. At the last second he rolled forward, the blades slicing air above his head. He slammed the broken chain into the burning chest. Sparks burst. The machine's glow flickered. The crowd gasped. The human fell back, coughing, blood in his mouth. He thought he would collapse, but then he heard her voice again, softer this time, trembling. "You're not alone. Remember that." Her words were like a second breath. His body screamed to stop, but his heart refused. With the last of his strength, he leapt onto the machine's back. Climbing desperately, he drove the chain again and again into its glowing core. Sparks turned to flames. The machine staggered, its voice crackling. Error. System. Failing. And with one last pull, the core burst. The machine collapsed in fire and smoke, shaking the arena. Silence fell. No laughter, no jeers, only stunned disbelief. The human lay on the ground, chest heaving, his vision fading. But before darkness could take him, he felt soft hands on his face. The princess had rushed down, kneeling beside him, her eyes wet with tears. "You fool," she whispered, her voice breaking. "You nearly died." He gave a weak smile. "I thought I would. But I couldn't let them win. Not when you believed in me." The king stood, his face a storm. He looked at his daughter, then at the broken human at her side. Tradition bound him. He could not deny the trial's result. "The human has survived," he announced, though his voice was filled with fury. The arena exploded with chaos. Some nobles shouted in outrage, others in shock. But none could deny what they had seen. A servant, a human, had endured where others had fallen. The princess held the human's hand, her voice steady though her tears still fell. "You are mine now, and no one can take you away." The court gasped. Some shouted betrayal, others demanded punishment, but her words were law, spoken in front of all. The human, weak but alive, looked at her through hazy vision. "Are you sure? My life is danger now, if you stay with me." She silenced him with a fierce whisper. "My choice was never for safety, it was for truth, and I choose you." And though his body was broken, his heart surged with strength, for in that moment, he knew this was no longer just survival. This was love, forged in fire and blood, the human who became her shield. The arena still smoldered from the wreck of the machine, smoke curled into the sky, and the human lay weak in the princess's arms. The crowd buzzed with disbelief. How could a servant, a fragile human, have survived all three trials? The king's golden eyes burned with fury, but tradition bound him. He could not deny the truth. By law, the princess's choice had been proven worthy, but even as the declaration spread, the nobles boiled with rage. They could not accept it. They whispered in dark corners, their voices sharp as blades. "He has stolen our honor. He will stain the throne with weakness. He must die, even if it means rebellion." The seeds of war were sown in that very moment. That night, the palace was tense. Torches burned late into the hours. Guards doubled their patrols. Rumors spread that nobles were calling their armies, preparing to march against the crown. In her chamber, the princess stood at the window, her silver hair shimmering in the moonlight. The human sat nearby, his body still bruised but his spirit stronger than ever. "You should not have chosen me," he said softly. Our world is falling apart because of me." She turned, her violet eyes fierce. "No, my world was already breaking. You gave me something it never had before. Truth." He shook his head, doubt still weighing him down. "I am no warrior, no prince. I only survived because I had no choice." The princess stepped closer, kneeling in front of him. Her hand touched his chest gently. "And that is why you are stronger than all of them. You fight not for pride, not for power, but because your heart refuses to break." Her words silenced him. His throat tightened. He realized then, it was not just her crown at stake, but her life, her freedom, her very soul. And he had become her shield, whether he wanted to or not. The next day, the rebellion struck. A faction of nobles stormed the palace with armored warriors. The gates shook under their assault. Their voices thundered, "Down with the false king! Down with the human!" The palace guards scrambled, steel clashed, fire lit the night as battle erupted in the courtyards. The king stood on his throne, his voice commanding, "Crush them, leave none alive." But the rebels pushed hard. Their anger was fueled by pride and hatred. The human stood in the middle of the chaos, his body aching but his heart steady. He saw the princess drawing her blade, ready to fight, but he stepped in front of her. "No, if they want blood, they'll have to go through me first." The princess's eyes widened. "You will be killed." He gave a faint smile. Then I'll die as the shield you chose, not as a servant." The battle roared. The rebels poured into the hall, blades raised. The human picked up a fallen spear, gripping it tightly despite his trembling hands. His breath was ragged, but his stance was firm. The first warrior came, swinging a massive blade. The human ducked, driving the spear into his side. He turned, blocking another strike, his arm amid with pain, but he kept fighting. The rebels laughed. "Look at him, a human dares to stand against us." But their laughter died when he refused to fall. Each strike he blocked, each breath he stole from their victory, broke their pride piece by piece. The princess fought by his side, her dagger flashing like silver lightning. Together they stood, back to back. The bond between them was not just love, it was war. The hall shook with violence. Blood stained the marble floors. Yet the human did not yield. Even when he was struck across the shoulder, even when his knees buckled, he rose again. His voice cracked as he shouted, "You will not take her, not while I stand." The rebels faltered, their courage wavered, for in his eyes they saw something more dangerous than strength, unyielding will. At last, the king himself descended from his throne, his golden armor gleamed, his voice thundered above the chaos. "Enough! You dare spill blood in my hall? You dare defy my law?" The rebels froze, fear crept into their hearts. Even in anger, the king's power was absolute. He turned his gaze to the human, eyes like fire. "You are a fool, human, but you have shown what none of my nobles could. Courage, without greed." The court gasped. The king's words were sharp, but they carried weight. "You are not one of us. You never will be. But you are chosen, and that choice stands." The rebels dropped their weapons. Defeat washed over them. They could not defy both tradition and the king's fury. The human collapsed to one knee, his body broken, but his heart blazing with victory. The princess knelt beside him, tears shining in her eyes. "You shielded me," she whispered, her voice trembling. "You always will," he answered weakly. She smiled, her hand gripping his tightly. "Then let the galaxy know. My heart belongs to the human who stood when all others fell." The hall grew silent. The war was over. The whispers of doubt faded, and in their place came something new, respect. For the first time, the crowd did not see a servant. They saw a warrior, a protector, a shield forged not by bloodline, but by choice. And so, the human rose, not just as the princess's chosen mate, but as the man who had changed the fate of a kingdom,